The Kukirin G4 is the fastest electric scooter that they offer, with a top speed of 43 miles an hour. It's also the only scooter they offer with a rear single 2,000-watt motor. What's even better is that it only costs $849. That's $400 cheaper than the next fastest scooter they offer, which is the G3 Pro. So today, we're going to test it out and find out if it really can reach 43 miles an hour. We're also going to test the range, the front and rear disc brakes, the acceleration, its maneuverability and ride comfort, and I'm going to ride this thing up a huge dirt mountain to try to find out how powerful that 2,000-watt motor really is. So let's go ahead and get started with my full review and road test of the Kukirin G4 here on Hobart's Reviews. Let's go. The Kukirin G4 is normally priced at $1,549, but at the time of this review, it was on sale for just $849. Now, there is an option if you want a seat, which adds an additional $50 to the price, which is still an incredible deal. Now, the G4 does come with a 12-month warranty, but if you want to spend an extra $100, they'll extend that warranty to 24 months. Now, if you can't afford the full price up front, you can opt for 4 payments of $212 through Klarna. Now, at first, I was quite skeptical on how fast and powerful a single 2,000-watt motor could actually be. But I gotta say, with a top speed of 43 miles an hour, this baby gets there in just seconds. And I can't wait to show you when we go out on the ride how fast and powerful this scooter actually is. Now, as you can see, there's plenty of real estate to stand on here on the G4 because the deck is 20 inches long by 8.6 inches wide, and you have this extra kick plate back here for your rear foot. Now, keep in mind, the best way to stand on one of these super scooters when you're going fast is to have one foot up front and one foot back here on the rear kick plate for stability. Now, inside the deck, we do have a 60-volt, 20-amp-hour lithium-ion battery, which gives you a range of up to 43 miles on a charge. Now, I wouldn't suggest running this all the way down to 0 because it can hurt the battery, but if you did, it would take about 10 to 12 hours to charge back to full. So the G4 has 11-inch tubeless tires, and these are a little bit bigger and a little bit wider than some of the other tires on the scooters I've reviewed. And I got to admit, when I first started riding it, it felt kind of strange. It felt like I was riding like on a flat tire, and when I turned, it was like turning on a square tire. But after a few miles, I did get used to it, and it feels quite normal now. Now, as you can tell, there's no nubbies here on the tire, which tells me that this is a street tire meant for riding it on the road. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to try to go off-road, and we're going to do that here in a few minutes to see what kind of grip we can get. Now, the G4 is quite a large electric scooter. It comes in at 81 pounds, it's 26 inches wide, 53 inches long, and 51 inches tall. Now, you are able to fold the stem down so that you can fit it inside your vehicle, and it's pretty simple to do. You just have to push this lever, pull that pin, and you can see the stem folds down quite nicely. Now, when it's folded, it's only 22 inches tall, which should be able to fit inside your trunk or your SUV. Now, when you are ready to ride, it's very easy. You don't have anything to twist or screw or pop in or out. You just lift the stem up like so, and it locks into place. It's that simple. For brakes, we've got front and rear mechanical disc brakes. The brake rotor is 140 millimeters in diameter, and so far they seem to work quite well. I haven't had any noises or squeaking out of them, which is always good when it comes to scooter disc brakes. Now, we're going to have to test these out here in just a few minutes on the ride because we're going to do a high-speed brake test to see how well it can stop us in an emergency and if we slide out of control, so stick around for that. Now, one feature I haven't seen on an electric scooter before is this hollow stem right here. Now, at first, I was kind of worried because there's a lot of forces that you put on a stem when you're riding real fast or going off-road or doing jumps and things like that. But I gotta say, so far, I have not felt any bending or flexing of any kind, and I feel quite confident riding this thing on jumps and off-road and riding it at 43 miles an hour. Kukirin also says that having this hollow stem helps with wind resistance, which I can absolutely understand, being that the wind can pass right through the stem and it prevents you from slowing down. Now, the lighting is not bad on the G4. While it doesn't have any deck lights, it does have a pretty bright headlight built into the front, and it has a rear tail light and turn signals. Now, I've ridden this thing several times at night, and I was able to see okay out in front of me, but I wouldn't suggest going too fast as you can't see far enough ahead of you to miss any hazards in the road or the sidewalk. Now, here's something I haven't experienced on an electric scooter before, and it's not the LCD screen, it's that it's a touch screen. Now, it's not going to work anywhere near as good as your smartphone, and it actually doesn't work sometimes at all, but it's still a touch screen. Now, what's on the screen? First, we've got our speed in the middle, we've got our odometer here at the bottom, our battery level on the left, our headlight icon up there, and then the different speed modes will show up here. We've got 3 buttons here, the light, mode, and set button. And if I touch the light button, you can see my icon goes away from my headlight. So that's how you're going to turn your headlight and tail light on and off. The mode button is going to switch it between different speed modes. So if I touch it, you see we go to Eco. If I touch it again, hopefully we'll go over to Sport. There we go. And one more time, we're back down into race mode. Now, for those of you who are outside of the US, this set button over here, by touching it, is going to go from miles per hour to kilometers per hour and kilometers on your odometer. For those of you inside the US, press it one more time, and you've got miles per hour and miles back again. Now over here on the left, we've got our grips. Of course, this grip is really grippy, especially here in South Florida where I'm always sweaty when riding. I still have really good grip, so I like that. You've got a left blinker and a right blinker. You've also got a little horn here and your rear disc brakes. Over on this side is your power button in the middle. You've got your thumb throttle, which is actually really nice, and your front disc brakes. Now you also have a key down here to power the scooter on and off. And it is attached to this little keychain, which is bolted to the scooter so that you don't lose it. And that's a look at the cockpit. Well, now that we know pretty much everything there is to know about the Kukirin G4, what do you say? Let's put our safety gear on and head out on our ride. All right, safety gear check. Got the knee pads, the elbow pads, the new gloves, which I'll put a link down below if you like the new gloves, and the motorcycle helmet so that we can go 43 miles an hour, hopefully, and be safe. So let's go ahead and do our top speed test. I got a nice straightaway here. I'm in race mode. Let's go. 15, 18, 20, 23, 24, 29, 30, 33, 35, 37, 38, 39, 42, 43, 44, 45 for a second there. Wow. All right. So I got up to 45 miles an hour. Now there is a wind. It's a little bit of a windy day, so I was going with the wind. So let's go ahead and try to do this again against the wind and see if we see any difference, all right? Let me get over this bump here, and let's give it a try. 20, 23, 25, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. All right, so it looks like 33 might be as fast as we can go against the wind. So there is a difference, and that might be one of the downfalls on the single motor. Even though it's 2,000 watts, a single motor, it doesn't have the power to go against the wind. All right, so the next thing I want to try is a high-speed brake test. We got to test these disc brakes out, find out how well they work. So I'm not going to go 40 miles an hour, but I'm doing 25 miles an hour. Let's go ahead and slam on the brakes and go. Woohoo! All right, well, as you can see, we did lock up a little bit. The rear end did move around a little bit, but I didn't slide out of control. You can see I left a little bit of a trail there, so I probably stopped in maybe 30 or so feet, which is pretty good. If you had an emergency, you would be able to stop, but you just got to be careful and make sure if you do lock up that you don't lose control. So really good brake test. All right, so there's this little trail here. I want to try some off-roading. Now, I did tell you that there's not any nubbies on these tires, so I've never been off-road on this scooter yet, so I'm kind of curious to see how much grip we have when riding on stuff like this, which is really rocky and sandy. Woo! All right, so I wouldn't suggest going 40 miles an hour on this, but it's handling it pretty good, and the suspension is working as well. Woo! It's extremely bumpy on these rocks. Hopefully I don't pop a tire. All right, let's go ahead and try a brake test at 15 miles an hour. Woo! All right, I ain't mad at that. It stopped us pretty quick, didn't slide out of control. So again, disc brakes working good, even off-road. Now, one thing that I really do like is this throttle. This throttle reminds me of the throttle on the Apollo Phantom. And the reason is because most of these super hyper fast scooters, it's either on or off. You get this really jerky motion. And with this one, you can slowly accelerate. Look at that. 9, 10, 11, 12. And I can hold it at a constant speed that's not either slow or fast. So the throttle is extremely responsive and smooth all the way throughout the power band. And you can keep it if you want in the middle and it's not jerking you around like some of these other scooters do. Now, even though this has wide tires, it's still pretty maneuverable. I'm able to, you know, go slow and maneuver around on these sidewalks really easily without feeling like I'm gonna fall over. I can lean into my turns, kind of go around this thing at a pretty good speed, maneuver through, and I don't feel unstable or anything like that. So the maneuverability here, look, tight turn, here we go. Go around this little track here. I'm able to go pretty quick, 14, 12 miles an hour without sliding out. The tires are grippy. And that's one good thing about these wider tires is you do get some really good grip when you're turning like this. So maneuverability is pretty good here, even though we've got these wide tires, and they might actually help us out a little bit. All right, so I'm taking a little bit of a break, and I thought that it'd be a good time to take a look at the GPS app to see what our stats are so far. So we've been riding for about 30 minutes or so. We've gone 7.65 miles and a top speed of 41 miles an hour. So, of course, during that top speed test, we saw the speedometer say 43 and 45 miles an hour, so it might be off by a few miles an hour. Now, taking a look at the battery so far, the battery's still showing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of 10 batteries. So it looks like we're at about 75% so far, going 8 miles, which isn't bad. So that's just a quick little checkup. Let's get back to the ride. Let's try to go up on this sidewalk here. Able to do this at pretty good speed. As you can hear, no sound from those brakes. No sound from the brakes. They work really well and they're nice and quiet, so great job on the brakes. All right, let's jump off this curb. Boom! Nice and cushy. All right, so now I want to test out the hills and see if I can get up this big old mountain of dirt right here on the G4. Now, I'm not expecting it to happen, but like I said before, I haven't really taken this thing off-road, so I'm interested to see how far I can make it up this hill and if I can get across all of this dirt and the sand with the tires being street tires. So let's go ahead and give it a try and see what happens. Well, so far so good. Whoa, whoa. I'm sliding around a little bit, but I'm still able to keep some speed, 8 or 9 miles an hour. Whoa, it does not like sand, but I'm gonna try to go up this mountain right here and see how far I can get up. Whoop. And it looks like I'm not gonna get very far. All right, well, at least we tried, right? Let's see. It just wants to peel out. It doesn't really have any grip. All right, well, let's ride around on some of this out here. It's a little bit harder, a little bit more compacted out here. Woo! Suspension's really having to work. Whoa, almost fell again. Come on, baby. You can get there. Almost there. Woo! All right. Back on the road where it's safe. Woo! Yeah, I wouldn't suggest to ride this thing off-road unless you're on really compacted dirt. It's just a little bit too soft for this scooter, especially with those tires. So just keep it on the road to be safe. All right, so what did we learn there? We learned that the nubby tires definitely help with grip, and street tires are no good when you're riding in dirt, and that maybe having that single motor, even though it's 2,000 watts, it doesn't have enough torque, enough power to get you through that sand and those trails and the dirt and stuff like that. So while it's really good for the road, it's not necessarily good for going off-road. All right, so up until now, we've been going against the wind, but now I'm kind of going with the wind. So let's see if we can push that 41 miles an hour on the GPS app a little bit higher. Pile of dirt, get out of the way! Whoa, that was a big bump. $43, $44, All right. Well, let's go ahead and see what kind of range and speed we got, and let's wrap this thing up. All right, well, that was a lot of fun. This has actually been one of my favorite scooters to ride lately, and just because it's a pleasure to ride. It's got some pros and it's got some cons, but before we get to that, let's go ahead and take a look at the app and see if we were able to improve any on that miles per hour, which looking at it here, we were able to go 42 miles an hour, so we improved by a mile an hour, which is pretty much in line with the top speed that they state. Now, as far as distance and range, I was able to go 20.2 miles today on the ride, and looking at the battery here, we have 5 battery bars left, which is half battery. So if you take that half battery and 20 miles and times it by 2, we'd be at about 40 to 41 miles, which is right in line with the range that they say this can get. So overall, it's performing like they say it's going to perform, which is always a good thing. Now, what are some of the things that I like about the G4? Well, the first thing I like about it is this throttle and the controller, the tuning of it. So a lot of these super hyper fast scooters, when you hit that throttle, it's either stop or go. It's either slow or fast. There's no in between. The only other scooter that I know of that's kind of in between is the Apollo Phantom V3. That one allows you to go fast or slow and somewhere in between. But most of the other ones, it's really jerky and you're just jerk, 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 and you can't really go medium. You have to go either slow or you got to go fast. So the throttle is a huge pro on here. Also, those disc brakes work really well. As I showed you, there's no squeaking, no noise from them at all. And when stopping on pavement from 25 miles an hour, while we did skid, we didn't skid out of control, and we stopped in a pretty good distance. Now, when I did go off-road on those rocks, I was going about 15, 17 miles an hour, slammed on the brakes, didn't lose control, and I was able to stop pretty quickly. So I think the brakes work really, really well. I also like the overall comfort of the ride. So when you jump off of curbs and go over bumps and things like that, those larger tires and that suspension really do cushion your ride, which is really nice. So the ride comfortability is also a pro. Now, I also showed you about the maneuverability, going slow around those sidewalk turns. The maneuverability, even though we've got these big old tires and it's got so much power, with this throttle, you're still able to go slow and maneuver around tight spaces, which is also a good thing. What are some of the things that I might not like about here? Well, the touchscreen isn't the best. As you saw, sometimes it takes 2 or 3 pushes in order to get it to work, but I don't expect a smartphone quality screen on an electric scooter, but still, it could probably be improved as far as the responsiveness when you're touching the buttons. I also am not a big fan of this single motor when trying to go in sand and up hills and things like that. So Kukirin says that this can go up a 20-degree slope. And I know that mountain that I was trying to go up is a little bit steeper than that. I get it. And I know I was in semi-sugar sand, but it was compacted. So I did okay, but a few times I felt like I was going to fall. And a lot of that has to do with those tires being street tires and the fact that we don't have dual motors. So I don't have enough torque to keep myself going when I'm in sand like that. So definitely keep this thing on the road. It is not an off-road unless you're going on rock trails or something like that where it's really hard anyway. As you saw, I was still able to go pretty good on that. But when it comes to sand or packed down sand, it's a no-go for the G4. Other than that, I don't really have any other complaints about it. It's a really nice scooter, especially for $849. I don't know of any other scooter you can get that goes this fast, that has this range, and is such a nice scooter that you can get for under $1,000. Now, I know the typical price is around $1,500, so I'm going to leave a link down below for you, and I would go ahead and get one of these while you can at $849 before they raise the price. Now, also, if you have any questions or comments about the Kukirin G4, I'm happy to answer them. Just go ahead and leave them down in the comments, and I'll answer them for you. Well, if you liked the video today, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. And until next time, my name is Hobart for the Kukirin G4 and Hobart Reviews. Thanks so much for joining me. Have a great rest of your day, and happy safe riding.